Think we are live now. Welcome, all Patreon members. This is a basically a class where you can do a one-on-one, or you can do a five-on-one, or we usually have a few people show up and talk about tarot cards. And if you have any questions, then that is going to be something that we can bring up. I can hopefully answer it, et cetera, et cetera. So this is I believe. Oh, this is okay. This is. Oh, there we go. Patreon only. Live viewers. There we go. Okay. So apparently, I think this is open to the public this time. There you go. All right. This is open to the public this time, apparently, because I messed up the setting. But anyway, all right. Serena, welcome. What's going on? Hamburger and Shake, what's going on? Let's see. Who else we got? We got Bartman. Hello. What's up? All right. So this is normally for Patreon supporters, but we're doing it open topic, open thing, and see what's going on, see if you guys like it, see if you guys have any questions. So we will start off. Today is the most confusing tarot cards. So there are plenty out there. There are many tarot cards out there, and many of them are confusing. So what makes them confusing, kind of thing, right? When you go, you look at a tarot card, you learn the meaning. Neve, what's going on? Hierophant, what's going on? Arlene, hey. When you learn a tarot card, you learn the meaning of it. Is this going to be something this is going to be easy to learn? Is this going to be something that has too many meanings? I think there are multiple problems with tarot cards and the meanings. In my opinion, it's kind of like my show, my opinion kind of thing, I guess. But my opinion, there's multiple things that make tarot cards confusing. One of the big ones is there's just way too many systems out there. So you have the Thoth, or you have a new deck, and the new deck will have a new system entirely, which nobody has ever seen before. It's a brand new system the person created, and it may be a great system, but the problem is, okay, let's learn this new system. I'll learn a bad example. I learned that I can't even pronounce this properly. Everyone makes fun of me. Let's find something that I can't pronounce. Let's assume the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot has a completely different system, which is great. It comes with a deluxe book, which is great. It has all sorts of great new ideas, new innovations, which is fantastic. And you're thinking, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And it has a 500-page book. It has all of these details. It reinvents every card. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. And then you don't use it for 6 months. Then you come back to it. You're like, wait a minute. I don't even remember what the hell this card means. And now you're stuck basically rereading the book. And now you're like, well, I really want to use a particular deck, but it made up a new system, which I thought was fantastic at the time. But now it's been 6 months, I haven't touched it. And now I have no idea what it means. Or now I don't know what the reinvention of it is. So I'm going to fall back to what I know, which is Standard Rider-Waite or Golden Dawn or something, just anything that I kind of knew beforehand. So that's one of the first problems, is there's way too many systems. The other problem is there's way too many keywords on some of the cards, especially like the Hierophant or things like that. It's not just like one thing. Hierophant could be an authority, right? They appointed the emperor, for example. So it could be the ultimate authority. It could be a major organization or a big building or a school. It could be a church, obviously. It could be another major organization, major building, major thing. So now it's that plus the religious connotations plus the authority connotation. So you just branch off from there. So that's kind of one of the things as well. So you have a different confusing pieces that go into that. The first one is way too many systems. Second one is some cards have way too many meanings, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you run into, kind of some of the other problems. The other thing is you have, let's say, the Golden Dawn. You have the standard Golden Dawn, the Lord of illusionary success, or the Lord of success unfulfilled, debauch, or whatever. So you have this with the Thoth, the Golden Dawn standard Thoth deck, and Crowley, which takes me back to unique systems and different systems. And then you have the standard Rider-Waite. Hey, it's a lot of choices. It's cups, so it's emotions, maybe emotional choices, and every cup means something. Go look at my video where I talk about every cup actually does mean something. So go look at all the meanings from that video. Anyway, I won't regurgitate them here. But again, we have a drastically different thing over here. What was I think? So let's see. Clear suit of cups means dreams, emotions, and things like that. Then you with the Thoth, which is debauch, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is Venus, love, affection, beauty inside of Scorpio. Historically, Mars, Pluto, etc. So Scorpio is kind of secretive. And it's also what is it? It's in detriment? I think it's in detriment. Venus is in detriment in Scorpio. So now we're in astrology. So this card reflects the inveritable weakness arising from a lack of balance. So it's debauch. So again, we have that system plus the current system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have drastically different meanings from there. So obviously you see this is a drastic difference than something that's over here. So I think that kind of does that as well. And then you have obviously numerology, which we can say, okay, the seventh house, seventh astrology house, right? It's across from the first house. So the first house is how we see ourselves, how we present ourselves, how we view ourselves. And the seventh house is straight across from it, how other people see us, how we interact with other people, how we have interactions and love and relationships, marriages, how we do that. So that's on the lit side where people can see us, as opposed to the underside houses where people can't see us, and that's our private thing. Anyway, so now you have the astrology meanings there, in addition to the systems, in addition to the various meanings, various keywords and whatnot. And so all combined, it makes some cards just confusing. So we'll go through a few of what I consider my most confusing cards. So CJ, what do you think your most confusing cards are that you put down and every time you're like, that's kind of iffy?
I feel like everything but the Rider-Waite, I get confused when I pick it up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and the more, I don't know, I love the Enchanted Tarot a lot, but I just find the images to be difficult. And then I have the Wild Unknown Tarot, and I really like that too. But I feel like the Rider-Waite, like those images just tell a story, and that story I can stick to. But that's why I've been following you, because I want to be able to read these awesome, beautiful decks that I keep buying and collecting. I've got like 30 or 40 decks now. I can only read one.
Well, soon you have to build yourself a tarot tower. There you go.
I know. I like your system. I like your rack.
All right. So, so let's go over what I consider the most confusing cards as far as the Rider-Waite goes, or et cetera, et cetera. Feel free to add, anybody in chat, add to the list. Like, what is your most confusing card? Like you always put it down. You have no clue. You're like, well, I think that means this, but now that it's in this spread, I have no idea what it means, because this is not the spread I was hoping for, or this is not the what I was looking for as far as that goes. Anyway, let me know in chat, like what you think that is, what you think the cards are. So my most confusing card is one of mine is going to be the Seven of Cups for the reason this is going to be one of them, for the reason that I stated before. The Lord of Illusionary Success, the Lord of Success Unfulfilled, doesn't look like that. It just doesn't look like that. And I tend to want to go with the Thoth system. I tend to want to go with Crowley's system, because I think there's a lot of beef in there. There's a lot of good things. It was well thought out. The images are very drastic. I mean, you can't really, so I would say the Rider-Waite is a rubber mallet, trying to straighten a leg on a chair or something like that. And then the Thoth is like a jackhammer trying to fix a street. So I mean, it's just a drastic thing. I mean, like the Ace of Wands. It's not a subtle card. All right. And then debauch, it's not a subtle card either. And there's a lot of these. And then you have the phallic symbols within the devil and whatnot and all this other stuff. So like the Tower, not a subtle card. So a lot of these are just great. And I think because they're not subtle, because they are so cool and they look so drastically different than anything else, I tend to want to go with these. So, Anyway, I guess that thing. I have a dozen decks so far. Most confusing card are kings and queens and aces. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I do have a course on the court cards. No link in the description, but go to any stream. Go to any stream. Link in those descriptions. Anyway, so the 7. The other thing about the 7 is that every cup means something. And I think most people approaching this, kind of are like, well, maybe it's choices, maybe it's an emotional choice or something like that, or maybe there are things that right. And you have so many subtleties within here, just like how silhouetted the individual is. So he's not prominent. It's not like a king or a knight or a page. It's not somebody of note, right? It's not like the Hierophant. So in other words, they don't have an outfit, right? I mean, does that make sense? So it's just more of a most of the time when you silhouette something or someone in art, you want to take attention away from it. And it seems that's kind of what we're doing here. The other thing is sort of the clouds and then the area around it. So this is something in the clouds, it's something heavenly, it is something that could be an illusion. I think some books say that the 7 of Cups is an addiction card where you're hyped up on something, and so you're seeing things that aren't there. So it could be illusions indeed. And the Lords of, and then because it is again, I gotta look because it's detriment, right? Venus in Scorpio is detriment. Okay, so because it is detriment in astrology, now you have the negative connotation. But how do you kind of incorporate that within this card? So is it really illusionary success? Is it success unfulfilled? I would say 90% of the people that read with this, what I hear is I go to a psychic. So I've been on doing psychic fairs for many, 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 many years. I don't think I've ever heard anybody use that connotation or use that meaning. So it doesn't seem to be something a lot of people use. So the cups individually as well, it's kind of a lot to memorize, especially if you're just sort of warming up, coming in. You're not very prominent into this. You don't do this every day. You just started out. You're just like, I know that means treasure. Not really sure what that means. I'm not really sure what, that it's something. I guess it means evil. So again, if you want to see what they mean, 7 of Cups video, look in my videos. And I go through each and every one of those for you. But yeah, so there are a lot of subtleties within here that are kind of fun, right? So a lot of subtleties that are in there. Anyway, love your new book. I'm only a quarter way through it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah. So this is one of the most confusing cards for me. The guy floating head. The other one seemed obvious, but the blue head. Yeah. I mean, that's where I forget what I said it means. Anyway, but yeah. So go look at the video and you'll see all the descriptions. So that's one of the most confusing cards because of the variant in there, because of the number of choices. Because it could mean dreams, it could mean illusionary success, it could mean a lot of different things. So it sort of kind of depends upon where you want to go with this. So this is one of the things in tarot where you kind of have to look at what's around the card. So if I have a reading, and then I have, let's say, the death card, then I have this around this card, the meaning is going to be different than if I have, let's say, a court card or something. Maybe I have a court card, or maybe the king, maybe I have another king right next to it. Now it has a different meaning. So that's going to depend upon how you read or how you want to read this particular card. Anyway, so there's enough about that card. So who else has another confusing card that they want to bring up? I'm scared to do every day because I don't want any bad news. Is there? All right. I'm scared to do this every day because I don't want any bad news. Where to practice about doing readings myself? Sure. Do readings for other people. What I'd like to do when I first started is you have Facebook groups that will allow you to come in and do free readings for other people. You can also, you're watching the stream, right? And somebody asks a question. You're like, that's a good question. Let me pull some cards too and see how that differs from what the streamer pulled. So now you have different cards from what the streamer pulled, or maybe you have similar cards from what the streamer pulled. So now you have to go in and think, right? You have to think about it. So that's a way to do that without it yourself. So if you're obviously looking for only good news, well, that's kind of a problem too. If you're only looking for good news with a reading for yourself, that's kind of going to be a long road. But yeah, you kind of got to take with the good with the bad, and a lot of times. Okay. So let's go through another set of cards that is confusing for, I think, a lot of people, and cover this obviously in my book and whatnot. So you got the Three of Pentacles versus the Eight of Pentacles. So I think most people, well, I say most people, I think a lot of people will put this down and say, work, work, and things like that. Andrew, way I read for myself is, how can I make the most out of tomorrow? There you go. All right. So the 3 versus the 8, they're both working. Like, what's the difference? Does this just mean I'm working on the situation, I'm getting it done? Does this mean I'm working on the situation by taking feedback? So what's the difference between that? So what that's kind of makes it, in my opinion, a little bit confusing. The 3 of Pentacles has a lot of built-in information about the work that this person's doing. The 8 of Pentacles are sort of on their own. Right? They're sort of sitting on their own. They're sort of doing it on their own, and just making it happen as they go. 8 of Pentacles is my favorite card of being in the zone. Yeah, I agree with that. 8 of Pentacles is a fun card, and it's a simple card. That's kind of what I like about it. It's very simple, and a lot of people usually could throw it down. You can have a great, you can have a great time with that. What's the difference between the 2 and 3 of Wands? It is on my list. That is on my list. There you go. It's coming up. Well, no, that's a page, but yeah, it is on my list. I got the 2 of Wands. I need to dig up the 3 of Wands. Anyway, so yeah, the 3 and the 8. So you're right about the 8. It's in the zone. I think that they've simplified this to the max. There's hardly anything in the background. There's hardly anything in the foreground. There's hardly anything going on. There's one person doing one thing. So it's very single-minded, right? Very solo, very single-minded. So when you're talking about being in the zone, Neve, I think you're dead on. I mean, this is very, very focused, very single-minded. So this brings up a lot of questions like, why are they working alone, right? Did they get this project? Are they in charge and they're doing it themselves? Why don't they have any help? Why don't they have any feedback? I mean, how long have they been there? What is going on? So there's a lot of questions to be answered within that card. But I think the imagery is so simplified that it really makes it a great card and not confusing in the least bit, when you're doing that. Especially you get a work card, right? Am I going to get a steady job? 8 of Pentacles is a fantastic one to just throw on the table. So CJ, how do you see these two being different? What do you see as being the big differences?
Well, to me, the one, oh gosh, I forget the numbers. What is that one? So where he's doing the coins, to me, it seems like the work is going to directly result in some sort of income or financial gain is what I see there, as his work is directly related to the coins. Whereas the other one, I feel like the work, the 3, the work, there might be some feedback on the work. There might be some changes on the work. There might be, this work could create other work. Like maybe these people are seeing his work and saying, we'd like to hire you to do more work. And she seems to be holding like the plans. So it's hard to tell if it's like they're coming to say, hey man, you kind of messed this up. We need you to fix this, or we'd like to change the plans. But it seems like, depending, I guess, on the querent, it would be possibly some changes in the plans of work, that you're doing this project and there's going to be some changes, but you're obviously good at what you're going to do and you're going to be able to get through this. You just need to be open and listen to the people you're working with so that you can get through this. But both of them seem skilled and like they're going to get through what they need to get through, to me.
Yep. And there's interesting correlations between the two as well, right? Number one, people are working. Number two, the outfit is kind of similar. Not exactly, but it's kind of similar. The other thing is they're both kind of on, a platform. They're both on a raised platform, or they're both on a bench. Nobody's like grounded. So you have like one is entirely ungrounded, another one that's kind of partially grounded. So as far as balance and grounding and things like that, if you're looking for differences there. So you're right about the 3. The 3 has a lot of built-in meanings in both my system and, the Rider-Waite-Smith stuff. But the 3, you're right about the plans and specifications, right? So in my deck, which I'm using here, the Waterfall Tarot, this actually says nobody reads the README, which is it's just a programmer joke. So if you're a software developer, you understand that, an older software developer, nobody reads the README, because many people put a readme.txt in their software, and literally nobody will ever open that. And that contained like a lot of useful information and I was in a meeting one time at work where we were sitting there for probably 40 minutes just trying to figure something out. And it was like, I was like, this is in the README. Like, why are we even having this meeting? So they were like, what? So I had to pull up the README for the software. It was a vendor software. Anyway, all right. But yeah, so it is specification. It is feedback. It is something that needs to be changed, something that needs to be done, something that needs to be updated, something that needs to be communicated across. And it needs to be communicated across officially, right? Because this person could clearly tell them, hey, can you adjust that? Instead of making it 4 holes, could you expand that, make it 5 holes or 3 holes or whatever, right? So you can verbally tell this person that, but now that they're writing it down, now that they're sharing this with the other person, it's much more official, right? So this is more of an official specification or an official way to do that. And it seems over here, this person is clearly understands exactly what they need to do, and they're just cranking it out. This is also more repetitive. So a lot of jobs are just damn repetitive. You're making a widget. You're doing an iPhone, and you're the one attaching the camera to the iPhone, in a factory or something. Or you're working in a car factory and you're attaching the air conditioning unit to the car, whatever. So this is more repetitive work, more, work that maybe not everybody will want to do. But you're right. I mean, about that with the being in the zone, like Neve's talking about. This is excellent for that kind of work. But again, it could be repetitive. Now, if you're looking for steady work, stable work where people just leave you alone, the 8 is kind of where you want to be. So again, we have communication. This is also a teamwork card too, because he's not just doing it himself like over here. So this could also mean that the work is not clearly defined, right? So he started something that's not clearly defined and how you want to do that. That could be a relationship read. We started a relationship. We didn't really have any goals. We don't really know where we're going. We're just sort of winging it. We're going day by day. The goals are clearly not defined. Where we want to be is clearly not defined. Or somebody has a new project at work and it's clearly not defined as what's going on, or we got specifications that may not be valid. So we may need to go back and communicate that to the person, right? So that is kind of the feedback, but this is also a teamwork card where you do have multiple people working together on a project. I think that's important too, because a lot of times you'll get something dumped on you at work and they'll say, do this. And then halfway through it, it's wrong. They're like, well, I said that, but I kind of mean this, right? Now that I look at it, I kind of mean this. And I think that's a lot where the waterfall system, no pun intended, the waterfall tarot, the waterfall system. Anyway, but that's more of an agile type of solution to fix that, right? The agile solution, we started it and we're going to have a regroup with the business and we're going to find out what the business wants and things like that. So the agile, this is more of an agile system where we're communicating and things like that. This is also a networking card. So you're networking with people at work, you're contacting people, you're networking. And so if you need a networking solution, if you're looking for a job, this could mean, hey, network with somebody else. And then you have obviously the 3 is going to be a creation or birth. So if you're looking for the 3 of Pentacles being a new job, always a fantastic thing, for the 3 to show up. So that's kind of the bigger differences in that. You also have over here, you have a more of an intricate, more detailed thing than over here. So if you're looking for intricate, more detailed, more heavy-handed, more complex, this is going to be that, right? Let's say that Josie wants to buy a house. And Josie's like, well, how's this going to go? This seems to be a pretty smooth process so far. Seems kind of easy. Then if you get the 8 of Pentacles and you're working on getting a house, that's going to be streamlined and pretty easy. And, point A to point B to point C. Then over here, you may have a bit more complexity. We may have to go back to the realtor and say, hey, the house that you gave me was great, but that's in a terrible neighborhood, or the neighbors is really a butthole or something like, I don't know. But yeah, so it's a more complex situation than something over here that seems more streamlined and more straightforward. Anyway, does anybody have any feedback, or CJ, do you have any feedback?
Sorry, no. I watched a lot of your the symbology videos this weekend too, so I was looking at those as well. But I agree. And the adding the teamwork and the working together on a project stuff, I think that's super clear there as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. I mean, it's good to have the dynamics between those, but
it's
because
just so
it
good
is
to talk about them, it's just really good. People learn the most when they talk, when they share. Like I've always heard, people learn more by teaching than by listening. So it's just so good to get people like just talking about it and listening to you and sitting there seeing what I think. Even just following your YouTube videos just really gets my mind going on the card. So thanks for all that.
Yeah, well, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. So that's just sort of the difference. A lot of people lay this down and say, "Oh, we're working on it. Oh, we're working on it." But in fact, there's a much deeper level of doing that as well. So they went over the 2 and the 3. Let's dive into that. Of course, I pulled the page like an idiot. Let me get the 3. I'm supposed to have these in advance, but there's 2 factors with me. You always have to remember. One is I'm super lazy. And the other is I'm really organized until I need to be organized, and then I'm unorganized. Okay. So the 2 and the 3, we'll dive into this mess. So we have 2 people staring out into the distance. Which is kind of confusing. So it's like, well, what are we going to do here? We're looking for something here. We're looking for something there. There we go. Paula has some feedback for the 3. Thank you, Paula. For me, the 3 of Pentacles seems to speak more of a group setting. There you go. Yeah, teamwork, group setting. Eight of Pentacles speaks of things nearing finishing the task. That's great. That's very cool. All right. So the 2 and the 3 of Wands, domain. So this is a lot of symbology within here. The biggest thing that you'll notice on domain is the fact that he's atop of his castle. So we assume that he's the leader. He's the top of the castle. He's steering out. He's looking at a globe, trying to figure out what land or what domain he's going to conquer next. This is a 2. Obviously, 2 is always going to be choices. I need to do this choice or that choice. The 2 of Pentacles is more of an obvious, hard choices or decent choices, whatever. The 2 of Wands is still choices because it is the 2, but he is just on top of the castle. He's got the mastery of whatever lands and whatnot. And he's looking on his lands. He's looking on his territory. Again, domain. So in my deck, in my card, the most of the territory is on fire, which I try to give an added meaning to that. You may think we're mastered on this. We may be looking at a globe and trying to figure out what area to conquer next. But what you currently have is on fire. What you currently have is challenged, and you need to do something about it. Because I think that comes up a lot in the readings where I have the 2 of Wands. I think that comes up a lot of people just being a little too comfortable with what they have, or a little too confident in what they're doing and how things are going. Because you do have people that do run into a choice. It's a fire card. I need to do something. But at the end of the day, now you're going to have a problem because so let's say you have a relationship and you're really comfortable with this relationship, but the other person can't stand you anymore. I mean, maybe you fart too much, or you eat too much, or you have disgusting habits or something like that, right? So you think everything's great, you think everything's fine, but the other person's thinking of how to get rid of you. So you do have that thing, right, where you do have to make choices. Choices are incoming. Choices are prevalent. But domain is sort of a mastery of your area, mastery of that particular thing. And then the globe is obviously, what's next? What can I do next? Where can I go next? And I think that sometimes, in my opinion, is premature, because you kind of need to hammer down what you currently have, get everything under control with what you currently have before you do want to keep doing that. I mean, you'll see in history many times, you'll see, people that just had just a firm grasp on their territories, a firm grasp on the military, the military lands that they had conquered. And then they went to do something else and expand that, and it fails because they just weren't grounded enough. They didn't have enough strategy. You'll see that in World War II. It didn't have enough strategy, and the other person had a lot more strategy, or their land was indefensible based upon how many people they had on there, etc. So it's all about strategy, right? And this is sort of a strategic card. So you definitely need to make sure your strategy is correct and you're not too spread out, or you're not overconfident, or you're not too cocky in how you're approaching things. So this is sort of the Two of Wands. So does anybody have any questions on the Two of Wands? CJ, what do you think?
No, I find that, I mean, now that you're talking about them, I do find these two to be kind of confusing, but that makes sense. Yeah. And then the one's bolted down, and I feel like it can mean that you're making a choice of like, are you going to travel? Are you going to venture out from home? But then it seems like he's going to take the one wand with him. So he'll be taking like a piece of home with him as he travels, or do you want to stay here where the wand is bolted down and where everything is safe? And it seems like either choice is a good choice. It's like the person needs to figure out what's right for them. And then the three, I guess that is one of the ones I find confusing, because he's just looking out at the water, which I guess is emotion, right? Feelings, things like that. It could be, do you even want to get involved in this situation that might be so emotional, or do you want to just stay here on land where things are stable? But
yeah, that's more simplified. It's all about making a choice, right? So let's go, while you're talking about that, which is a very good point. Let's talk about, you're wandering around and you need a stick. You wander around, you need a stick. So sometimes you just need a stick. Sometimes you need to carry a stick, whether it be for balance. So I think it's interesting. Let's sort of go forth and look at that, because there are a lot of wands where you just need a stick, which sounds kind of silly, but I mean, it's my hour. It's my hour. Put up with me, please. Okay, all right. So let's look at this. I mean, like you're talking about, you have one that's not bolted down. You have one that is free to take, or free to do. And you can combine this with stuff that, like this. Maybe you need the stick for defense. Maybe your territory is being invaded. Maybe your territory is not as stable as it was, right? Maybe the fires have caused riots. So you have people that are assailing you, attacking you. So yeah, you have a defensible position in a castle, obviously. But the symbolism here, I mean, sometimes you just need a stick for defense, for combat, for stability, for future combat, right? Because you have all these cards, right? So the Nine of Wands, the injured warrior. The person has had problems. The person is having some difficulty getting anything done. They're injured, they're bandaged, but they have a stick, so they're ready for future combat, right? And this person here is using it for stability. It's not just a stick, it's obviously a hoe or what have you, but yeah, but you're using it for stability in this case. And then the nine, you're also kind of using it for stability. As I point out in my book, this is sort of the rested, wounded warrior is sort of a very common symbol. I talk about this in my book, but basically, people resting on something like a shield or a stick or a sword. Basically, that's just a temporary rest. So they're not fully laying down, they're not sitting down, but they're sort of resting a little bit by leaning on something. And sometimes you may need a stick for offense. So offense, defense. But like a good point, like you're talking about, maybe this person needs that in a future card. Maybe this person needs that coming up, kind of thing. So let's see, more layers, of course, depending upon other questions. Yeah. Paul is right. Okay, so let's look at combining this with the three, or what's the difference between the two and the three? The three is, again, when you're talking about, sort of leaning on something, using something as stability, and you see this almost all across the ones, except for maybe like the 10 or what have you, but and the 4, but using something for stability and then going forward and looking at what's next. So this is looking at, what can I conquer next? Where can I go next? This is sort of just a raw, more filtered, more easy, where can I go? So you'll see that this trek is going to be much more difficult, maybe, than this trek. It's a variable difference, right? Because you're going to need a ship. A ship obviously in the time that's sort of depicted is not easy to come by. It's not going to be something cheap. Well, now it's not going to be something cheap either, but you know what I'm saying. But it's not going to be something inexpensive. It's going to be a rather substantial journey because back in this time, you can't just board a raft and we just go out on sea. This is a great distance, and he is looking out amongst ships. So getting a ship requires people. You need people. You need people to help you. You need people to hoist the sails. You need people to supply the food. You need money. You need money for paying the people, getting them enough to eat, getting them whatever they need, taking care of the people or what have you, for because a lot of times if you're getting a ship together and what have you, it could take weeks, and so you have to sort of pay for lodging for the people that are coming sometimes because they've come from maybe other countries or a long distance or something like that. Does it make sense? So that's going to be more a substantial cost. It's going to be a substantial organization. So this is a substantial journey that this person's embedded upon. I'm not saying this is not. If you're going to conquer another land, you need a war machine, right? Again, more people, supplies, maybe machines, or what have you, horses. So obviously both are going to be big, but this person can just simply walk. This person can simply traverse this. But now we have a bigger thing to cross basically for here. So that's kind of, in my view, that's kind of one of the differences between the 2 and the 3. This person is also looking left. So if you use card interactions, because you read my book, many of my books, this card could be interacting with this card. You could be making plans for defense. He could be looking over here at being attacked, and he could be adjusting his plans based upon what he's seeing. So you have card interactions, right? Looking at here, but he clearly can see this. So what you have to do? How do you have to change things based upon what I'm seeing, what I'm viewing? Or he also could be interacting with this card as well. He could be giving him strategy based upon his leadership, his success with conquering, with building a castle. This person's just up on a hill kind of thing. So he could be giving advice or something like that. Anyway. So that's kind of the card interactions. Anybody in CJ, do you have any questions, or does anybody in chat have any comments, questions, feedback?
No.
Wait a couple of seconds on chat. See what they got going on. 2 of Wands speaks of the world being in your hand. Choice to be made. There we go. Oops, I've clicked the wrong one. There we go. 2 of Wands speaks of the world being in your hand. Indeed, domain. You're master of the domain. No Seinfeld pun intended. Choices yet to be made. Yep. Conquer, things to conquer, choices to be made. So it's like you're ending one thing and beginning another, which is kind of an interesting take on this, right? So Paula has a good point. That's a very interesting take on this because you're ending one thing. I have a castle built. That's massive. I have lands conquered. That's huge. And now you're looking at something else. So we're moving it's almost like a death card in that respect, right? You're finished with this. Now let's move on to something else. What else can we do? And that could point to a work project concluding. It could point to a relationship finally ending, right? Does that make sense? So let's see. So Paul also says 3 of Wands can speak more of steps taken towards goals, contemplations, temporary pause. Yep. Just it's more of a maybe introspective or more of a planning. So it's kind of interesting that you bring up the planning. So what would be, you do have the big planning card in the deck, which is the 4 of Swords. Of course, I'm not prepared for that, but because Paula had a great point, I need to dig it up and put it out here. Hang on a second. All right, the 4 of Swords. So that's interesting, right? So Paula, you have the planning aspects of both of these cards. So in the 3, so what does everybody in chat, CJ, what do you think? We got the 4 of Swords, which is a respite and a rest, and it's for planning, it's for strategy. And then the 3 of Wands, it may be kind of a respite, sort of looking out what is next, looking out to see, what we have, or maybe you could combine again, maybe the 2. We conquered the lands. What is next? What would you see being the big differences between here, CJ?
Well, I mean, in Swords, the person just seems dead. So it just seems like contemplation, but like, it's final. They're, I mean, they're like gold plated, almost like they're in what do you call it? Like a tomb almost. They're entombed in like gold. And then they have the swords going at the head, the heart, and the stomach, like your emotions and putting all of those things to rest and just being calm and centered. And then, the Three of Wands just makes me think this person really needs to think about if they even want to do this journey. This is going to be a lot of work. And they seem to be thinking that too. They're looking out like, do I even want to do this? This looks really hard. Do I have what I need to do it? And those are just the differences I see.
Yeah. And also interesting is this person seems a lot more prepared to go forward. Like if you had to put both of these and say, are you ready to go? This person's going to be much more like, yeah, I'm ready to go. This person, not so much. Right. But obviously this is a temporary respite, resting. But like you said, it looks entombed. The colors on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like an old Italian, like a church, how they have the stained glass windows of different pictures around the count churches and stuff. So it looks like somebody laying it, when you travel to Europe and you always see the dead, I forget what they're called, the dead bodies that are all decorated in jewels and they're in the glass cases in the walls of all the churches, is what it kind of looks like.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's the 2 and the 3. Anybody else have any questions? We'll move on. Okay, let's see. What else is next? What is in chat or CJ? What cards do you have that are confusing? You throw them down, you're like, I have no idea, why that card's there or what it's going to mean for me in this particular read or anything like that.
I mean, it's hard to say because it really depends on the person and like where I am. And you really have to pick the cards up regularly, like daily, and play with them. And if I don't pick them up, then I'll deal any cards and just suddenly feel completely confused. And I've heard you talk about that in, some of your videos, and a lot of it is just my lack of understanding of like what a Hierophant is or what, you know what I mean? Like some of these cards are just... But then the more you talk about them and get into them, like you see the symbol of the fire and all of the wands, the staves, the they're like walking sticks and the fire elements and the fall being, each of the seasons brought into each of the cards. So it really can be hard to say. I mean, there's like the Three of Swords, it's like stabbed in the heart, but it's also very simple and plain. The Ace cards are very simple.
Yep. I think Temperance is one of these for me too. Temperance is just kind of confusing. There's a lot of things going for it. Obviously, you're mixing things or blending things in. But if you're going to have, and a lot of people will point to balance. We need balance between two factors or balance between two things. So the Temperance is an interesting card and a complex card. It's one of those that suffers from way too many keywords. So it's like, well, there's only so many keywords I can jam in there, but every book has 100 of them kind of thing as well. Temperance, one of the things that I've noticed with Temperance, as you kind of look at it, you have the dynamics between two different things or an interaction between two different things. It's sort of highlighting the differences and the connection at the same time between two different worlds, right? So you have 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land. So they're both obviously the same person, different feet, but one's on water and one's on land. So you have that dynamic between a mixture of, maybe an emotional connection and maybe a disconnection or what have you. But you also have a balancing act that they're doing, because that'd be kind of weird, right? Because it's like they're balanced on this foot, but this foot's not really touching anything, just kind of dipped in the water. So it's not really a focal point or balance point. This is more of a pivot point on this foot, which doesn't really look like that because you would kind of be leaning more on that direction for that. But that's an interesting aspect too. The other thing is you have a road and an open area here, but over here you have just this, area where we have a lot of greenery, a lot of, things like that. So you have the dynamic balance between those two. It's almost like this person is this is a separation between the greenery and the open space. So you have the water, the land, the greenery, the open space as well. And mine obviously has an ice and fire. blended in to the wings. If you look at the thought, you have water and fire. Water or water being poured into fire, fire being poured into water, etc. So you have those two things being blended as well. So there's obviously a balance that's being maintained here. So you go to justice, which is the definition of a balance, right? You do have trying to balance things out. You have that with the Six of Pentacles too. We're trying to balance two different things and how it's going. Anyway, but yeah, alchemy on some level as well, transformation, blending of two aspects. Yeah, Paul, exactly. But you also have like a smooth blending, an uninterrupted blending, an uninterrupted pour between two things. And it's kind of a distance pour. And as I talk about in my book, the long pour with the bartenders kind of thing is sort of almost like an achievement or almost like a mastery of what you're doing between, pouring liquid and having it go like that. So, and that's kind of the things with the majors, like I talked about in the last lesson, where the majors start off with just ordinary dudes and women, right? You got the emperor, you got the empress, you got a magician, you got a court jester, and then as you move across the majors and as you go deeper in, now suddenly you're into ethereal beings, right? Things that don't exist, angels and demons and other worlds that we haven't seen. So it goes from the mundane a little into the mysterious and a little into just the wild and wacky once you sort of get deeper into the majors. So sometimes the majors escalate from normal into something that's more drastic or something that's vastly different. As I think that's where temperance falls in there, right? We have an angel, and the angel is, has a bunch of symbolism obviously within all of this stuff, but like Paula was saying, right? Moderation, transformation, mastery of blending things together, the dynamics between two different worlds or two different sides, and then the connection aspect as well between two different things. The connection, the water and the land are connected by this person. The greenery and the road behind are connected by this person as well. And the two elements with the ice and the fire are connected. So there you go. What happened on the waterfall death alternate card? So this was actually what happened on it. This was actually this was a tarot that I invented. It was a digital tarot where I was doing digital art. And so I wanted to make tarot cards with it. So this is the alternate death card in the waterfall tarot. It basically is something that I just made up. It's being eliminated or being removed. Being completely removed from a situation, being completely removed from that, right? It's drastic change at the elimination of something else. So you have just sort of this demonic hand or what have you, is sort of dumping a casket and the body coming out of the casket into a hole. And I think I had a dream about this or something like that. Anyway, it's a weird looking card, that's for sure. But yeah, that's what happened on it. That's a tarot deck I never made. It's called it was a digital tarot. I did take the alternate strength card and the alternate death card from that deck. I only had about 20 cards or something. Maybe I'll make it in the future, but I don't really think so. I don't think it's going to be a marketable thing, but anyway, but that's sort of the alternate, right? This is my alternate strength card. This is my alternate death card. You're basically being flushed or being shoved down into somewhere, into something unknown kind of thing. Anyway, that's kind of that. All right. So that is temperance and justice. We have balance. You have balance, you have scales kind of all through the tarot. You know what I mean? So you do have scales. Let's see. Let's go to, you got scales all over the damn Rider Waite. One of those is the Six of Pentacles. Of course, I need to find it. The Six of Pentacles has somebody giving out money or giving out wealth, distributing, and you have to make it even. You want an even distribution, which I thought was kind of weird, but interesting. That's another kind of weird thing about some of the Rider Waite Smith I talk about in my book is the fact that a lot of these cards have somebody giving out something or somebody receiving something, like the Lord of Defeat, the Five of Wands. You don't really know Are you the one giving out? Or are you the one receiving? Obviously, it's going to depend upon the situation and things like that. But yeah, Curly Cookies, welcome to the stream. How you doing? Curly Cookies, you don't have a mic or a camera, so I'm going to just say hello, Curly Cookies. Thanks for being a Patreon supporter. I appreciate that. All right. But yeah, so you have the distribution, and the scales kind of make it maybe an even distribution. Maybe the dog needs as much as the person does, or maybe the dog doesn't need as much as the person does. So I got the scales and tilted them or ruined them, basically. DC, what's going on? And I put a dog instead of a person because I'm weird. Anyway, but you have scales all through that. And that sort of points to I need to keep things balanced, right? So justice, I don't want to just dispense justice. I don't want to just get a big hammer and hammer out everybody that's been bad. I want to get the whole situation first. I want to understand what happened, where it happened, how it happened, and then I want to dispense justice. So that's kind of the justice, right? So you do have scales kind of all through the Rider-Waite, all through the tarot, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of something too. So I think that's another confusing part about any card is if you have a situation with two people, one is defeating and one is the defeator, one is giving out money, one is receiving money. Which are you, right? Are you the one giving out? Are you the one receiving? And that's going to depend upon all the other cards around it and what have you. But that's why I hate one card readings. I mean, that's my pet peeve. I mean, a lot of people probably love one card readings. They're like, what are you talking about? But I dislike one card readings because if I throw down a Lord of Defeat, who's being defeated? You know, I mean, it's just, I guess you just use your intuition. I don't know, but who's being defeated? If I go with pure symbology or pure images on the cards, who is being defeated kind of thing. So that's another confusing thing as well. So again, sort of things that make cards confusing. One is a new system. A lot of decks come with really big books, and the books detail out all these different systems, and which are fantastic, and you're all excited. You're like, ooh, a whole new system of reading tarot. But then 6 months later, you're like, I have no idea what that card means. I have no idea what this card means. I have no idea what this card means. I got to reread the book again. So if you do get a new system you're excited about, you got to use it every day. You got to use it at least twice a week just to keep it fresh, just to keep it going, because you will get just hazy. And then you're going to be reading for a client with these cards. You're going to be like, ugh. So you got to be fresh with any new system. The other thing that makes tarot cards confusing is how many keywords they have. The Hierophant is notorious. The High Priestess is notorious for just endless amounts of keywords. Pick up any book, you're like, these 50 keywords in this book are different than the 50 keywords in this other book, which are different than the 50 keywords over here. I'm tired of it. I mean, you just get to a limit with that. The other thing that makes it confusing is you have astrology associations with these things. So now a 7 is associated with the 7th house, or maybe it's associated with, numerology, so you have astrology, you have numerology, we have Kabbalah, we have the standard Rider-Waite, we have the Golden Dawn, the Order of the Golden Dawn. So all of these things combined make a lot of confusing stuff, which basically means, hey, just use your intuition and have a nice day, right? That's an easy solution to everything. Anyway, all right, CJ, do you have any follow-up questions before we end the stream?
No, I think that was great. I also like with the 6 of Pentacles, he gives money, but he also still has balance, at least on the card I have. I don't have your deck yet. But, so I also see something in there about bringing balance to what you have. But no, I think this is great. I love it. Thanks for getting me looking at and talking about the tarot cards. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter. Anyway, thank everybody for watching. Again, this is normally a private Patreon thing, but like once every couple of months, I'm just going to make one public so everybody can kind of see it. You know what I'm saying? So everybody can kind of keep it on. If you want to be a part of this, you need to be a Patreon supporter. Link in the description. Anyway, thank you. We'll see you next time.